Two people walk into a store and see the same item, a jacket that costs $400. The first person, earning $180,000 annually, thinks, I can afford this. My income can support it. I'll buy it. The second person, also earning well into six figures, thinks, I need to calculate the cost per wear. How many times will I actually wear this? What would this money become if invested instead? Same income, same store, same jacket, completely different purchase frameworks. The first person buys the jacket and feels good about it for 2 weeks. Then it blends into their wardrobe. By month 3, it's normal. By month 6, they're thinking about the next jacket. The second person buys the jacket only if the math works. If they'll wear it 200 times over 5 years, that's $2 per wear. That math pencils out. If they'll wear it 20 times, that's $20 per wear. The math doesn't work and they don't buy. 20 years later, the first person has spent $100,000 plus on clothing that's mostly unworn or forgotten. The second person has spent $40,000 on a curated wardrobe of items they actually wear. The difference isn't income, it's the framework they use to evaluate purchases. Here's what separates people who build wealth from people who don't, regardless of income level. How they think about money before they spend it. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how millionaires think about purchases differently than high earners. The specific mental frameworks that determine whether spending builds wealth or destroys it, and how to rewire your own purchase psychology to align with wealth-building behavior. Let me start with the fundamental difference in how wealthy people and high earners approach the same purchase decision. A high earner thinks, can I afford this? A millionaire thinks, is this worth what I'd have to give up? This seems like semantics. It's not. It's the entire difference between spending-based psychology and wealth-based psychology. When someone thinks, can I afford this? They're asking whether their income is sufficient to cover the purchase. If someone earns $200,000 annually and the item costs $4,000, the answer is yes, they can afford it. Their income supports it. This framework makes almost everything affordable to high earners. If you earn $300,000, you can afford a $60,000 car. You can afford a $10,000 vacation. You can afford premium everything. When someone thinks, is this worth what I'd have to give up? They're asking something fundamentally different. They're asking about opportunity cost. That $4,000 jacket isn't just $4,000. It's $4,000 that could be invested at 8% returns for 20 years, becoming approximately $18,600 in retirement wealth. Is the jacket worth $18,600 of retirement freedom? For almost everyone, the answer is no. This framework makes almost nothing seem worth buying, which sounds restrictive until you realize that wealthy people buy plenty of things. They just buy things that pass the opportunity cost test. The difference between these two frameworks explains why someone earning $200,000 can end up poorer than someone earning $100,000. The first person uses the "can I afford it" framework and spends everything. The second person uses the "is it worth the opportunity cost" framework and saves. Let me introduce the mental frameworks that millionaires actually use when making purchase decisions. Framework 1. The cost per use calculation. This is perhaps the most fundamental wealthy person framework. Before buying anything, estimate how many times you'll actually use it. Divide the cost by that number. A $300 kitchen gadget you'll use twice a year costs $150 per use in year 1. That's absurdly expensive for whatever task it performs. A $120 pair of work shoes you'll wear 3 days weekly for 2 years is approximately $1.50 per wear. That's reasonable value. This framework transforms how purchases appear. Most impulse purchases fail the cost per use test immediately. That $500 exercise bike you'll use for 3 months costs $56 per use before becoming a closet ornament. But some expensive items pass the test. A $2,000 mattress you'll sleep on every night for 10 years costs approximately 55 cents per use. Extraordinary value for something affecting your health daily. The person using the cost per use framework buys fewer things overall, but the things they do buy are higher quality and provide genuine value. They end up owning less stuff, but each item earns its place through actual utility. Framework 2. The replacement test. Millionaires ask a simple question about items they already own. If this disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. If your decorative vase disappeared, would you buy another? Would you replace that bread maker you never use? Those clothes you haven't worn in 2 years? For most items, the answer is no. You would not replace them. They exist through inertia, not intention. This framework prevents accumulation. If an item wouldn't be replaced, it's not worth keeping. It's taking up mental energy, storage space, and attention without providing value. Applied to future purchases, the replacement test prevents buying items you don't actually need. If something wouldn't be replaced if it disappeared, why buy it in the first place? Most high earners buy things they wouldn't replace. They accumulate items that feel good in the moment but provide no lasting value. The person using the replacement test buys only things they'd miss if gone. Framework 3. The upgrade freeze principle. Wealthy people maintain a strict policy. Never replace something that functions properly. The phone works. Don't replace it because a newer model exists. The car runs reliably. Don't replace it because the neighbor bought something shinier. The furniture serves its purpose. Don't replace it because you're tired of looking at it. This framework eliminates the upgrade cycle that destroys wealth for high earners. The person earning $300,000 who upgrades their phone every 3 years, their car every 5 years, their furniture every 10 years, is replacing functioning items purely for novelty. Over a 30-year career, this pattern costs approximately $200,000 to $500,000 in unnecessary purchases, which with compounding is $1 to $3 million in retirement wealth. Millionaires break this cycle by defining functionality clearly. Something is functional until it genuinely fails to serve its purpose. Boredom is not failure. Desire for novelty is not failure. The existence of newer alternatives is not failure. This framework is surprisingly difficult for high earners. There's social pressure. There's the feeling of deserving upgrades. There's the hedonic treadmill where today's luxury becomes tomorrow's baseline. Millionaires recognize these pressures and actively resist them through the upgrade freeze principle. Framework 4. The 3-month rule. Before making any non-essential purchase, millionaires implement a waiting period. Wait 3 months. If you still want it after 90 days, buy it. This isn't arbitrary. Research on desire shows that most wants fade within weeks if not acted upon immediately. The want for the new jacket disappears after 2 weeks. The want for the kitchen gadget fades after a month. The want for the expensive vacation shifts and changes over 90 days. For the small percentage of wants that survive 3 months, they probably represent genuine value rather than impulse. High earners skip this step. They see something, they want it, they buy it. The immediate gratification feels good. The regret comes later after the item joins the collection of forgotten purchases. The 3-month rule costs nothing but time, yet it eliminates approximately 70% of impulse purchases and the associated wealth destruction. Framework 5. The debt-free purchase principle. Millionaires ask, "Can I buy this without borrowing?" If the answer is no, if you'd need to finance the purchase, that tells you something important. You can't actually afford it. You can only afford the payment. There's a profound difference. A $40,000 car you can buy outright is affordable. A $40,000 car you need a 5-year loan to purchase is not. You're not actually affording the car. You're affording the payment and hoping nothing disrupts your income. High earners often borrow for things they could pay cash for because the payment feels small relative to income. A $500 monthly car payment is only 3% of gross income. The math feels sound. But the math misses the point. If you need monthly payments to afford something, you can't afford it. Wealth is built by buying things you can actually pay for, not things you can make payments on. This framework eliminates almost all consumer debt for millionaires. No car loans if you can't buy the car outright. No furniture financing. No credit card balances. Not because there's judgment around debt, but because if you need a payment plan, you can't actually afford it. Framework 6. The asset versus liability. Distinction millionaires categorize every purchase into two groups: assets and liabilities. Assets are things that make money or appreciate in value. A rental property is an asset. A business is an asset. Dividend-paying investments are assets. Liabilities are things that cost money or depreciate in value. A car is a liability. Jewelry is a liability. Most purchases are liabilities. Wealthy people bias toward buying assets and avoiding liabilities. They ask, will this make money or cost money? Will it appreciate or depreciate? Most people buy liabilities exclusively: cars, clothes, electronics, toys. Every single purchase costs money to maintain and depreciates in value. Millionaires still buy liabilities. You need a car, you need clothes, but they're disciplined about which liabilities and how much they spend on them. A millionaire might buy a $30,000 reliable car. A high earner buys a $70,000 luxury car. Both meet the transportation need. The millionaire's car is a smaller liability. The high earner's car is a larger liability that costs more to maintain and depreciates faster. Over 30 years, this $40,000 difference in cars, multiplied across multiple vehicles, represents millions in wealth difference. Framework 7. The envy elimination practice. This is perhaps the most psychological framework, but it's foundational to wealthy thinking. Millionaires actively work to eliminate envy-driven purchases. They notice when they want something because they saw someone else with it, and they stop themselves. The neighbor gets a new car, and suddenly you want one. A friend takes an expensive vacation, and you want to match it. A colleague gets a new watch, and you feel behind. These aren't genuine needs or even genuine wants. They're envy. And envy is one of the most expensive emotions because it drives purchases that provide no lasting satisfaction. The millionaire's practice is simple. Notice the envy, then abstain. When you feel envy about a purchase, don't buy it. Wait until the envy fades. If you still want the item 3 months later for reasons other than comparison, then evaluate it. Most envy-driven wants evaporate immediately if you don't act. The envy is temporary. The purchase is permanent. The regret is long-lasting. This framework alone eliminates 30 to 40% of spending for most people, especially high earners surrounded by others with high incomes. Framework 8. The Lifestyle Lock Prevention Rule. Millionaires think about purchases in terms of permanent cost, not just the purchase price. A $6,000 annual vacation isn't just a $6,000 cost. It's a $6,000 annual commitment for as long as you travel. If you establish the vacation as part of your lifestyle, downgrading feels like deprivation rather than returning to normal. A $200 monthly subscription isn't $200 one time. It's $200 monthly indefinitely until you actively cancel. A $5,000 annual membership isn't a one-time decision. It's a recurring commitment. Millionaires hesitate before establishing recurring expenses because they understand the lock-in effect. Once something becomes normal, removing it feels like loss rather than elimination of waste. The question they ask isn't, "Can I afford this?" but, "Can I afford to make this permanent?" If the answer is no, if this would strain finances as a permanent lifestyle cost, then they don't make the initial purchase. This framework prevents the accumulation of recurring expenses that gradually consume entire income streams. Framework 9. The Relative Value Assessment. Millionaires compare purchases to the same amount invested instead. That $5,000 vacation isn't just a vacation. It's $5,000 that could become approximately $23,000 in retirement wealth over 20 years at 8% returns. Is the vacation worth $23,000? For some vacations to meaningful places, the answer might be yes. For a week at a resort you'll forget about, the answer is typically no. This framework doesn't eliminate all discretionary spending. It just forces honest assessment of what you're trading. The person who understands that a $100 meal is really $460 in retirement wealth might still buy it occasionally, but they're making the trade consciously, not accidentally. Framework 10. The Sufficiency Standard. This might be the most important framework of all. Millionaires define what enough looks like before they start earning. They decide in advance, what kind of house is sufficient? What kind of car meets my needs? What level of material comfort constitutes genuine satisfaction? Then they earn toward that standard, rather than constantly redefining it upward. This might mean deciding a $400,000 house is enough even if they could eventually afford $800,000. Or a $35,000 car is enough even if colleagues drive $80,000 vehicles. Or that current wardrobes are enough even as income could support constant upgrades. The sufficiency standard creates a finish line. Without it, the consumption treadmill is infinite. Every raise gets absorbed into upgrades. Every income increase gets absorbed into lifestyle. The goalpost keeps moving. With a sufficiency standard, additional income flows entirely to saving and investing rather than consumption. The person earning $200,000 who defined enough at $120,000 of annual spending now has $80,000 flowing to investments. That $80,000 annually becomes approximately $2.9 million in retirement wealth over 20 years. The person who redefines enough upward every few years might save almost nothing despite identical income. Now let me show you how these frameworks work together in practice through detailed examples. Consider Rachel. She earns $160,000 annually and uses high earner purchase psychology. She sees a $3,000 handbag and thinks, I can afford this. I earn enough. She buys it. She gets a raise and immediately upgrades her car from a reliable $28,000 vehicle to a $65,000 luxury car. The $37,000 difference in cars, plus higher insurance and maintenance, costs her approximately $8,000 plus annually. Over 20 years, this single upgrade decision costs approximately $400,000 plus in wealth with compounding. She receives a bonus and books an expensive 2-week vacation. She loves it. Now that luxury vacation becomes her baseline expectation. She budgets $15,000 annually for travel. That recurring commitment costs approximately $300,000 plus in lifetime wealth. Her wardrobe expands with her income. She buys designer clothes regularly. Her closet contains hundreds of items, many worn once. The clothing spending that could be $3,000 annually becomes $12,000. Over 30 years, that's approximately $900,000 in retirement wealth. She sees colleagues with premium memberships, subscriptions, and services, and adopts several. Her monthly subscription costs grow to $400. That recurring commitment costs approximately $200,000, plus in lifetime wealth. Rachel earns $160,000 but saves almost nothing. Her lifestyle scales with her income automatically. When she reaches 65, she has minimal retirement savings despite decades of 6-figure income. Now consider Marcus. He earns $155,000 annually, slightly less than Rachel, but uses Millionaire purchase psychology. He evaluates the $3,000 handbag using the cost per use calculation. If worn 100 times, that's $30 per use. Expensive for a bag. He doesn't buy. If he needs a professional bag, he buys a $300 option that lasts 5 years, costing $1.20 per use. His car needs replacement, and he buys a reliable $32,000 vehicle. It will last 10 years and cost approximately $4,000 annually in total costs. insurance, maintenance, fuel. That $33,000 difference between his choice and Rachel's translates to $400,000 plus in wealth over 20 years. He receives a raise and asks himself, "Do I need to upgrade my lifestyle?" The answer is no. He already lives well. He directs the additional income to investments instead. That single decision to resist lifestyle inflation costs him nothing psychologically. He's not suffering, but gains him approximately $1 million plus in retirement wealth. His wardrobe is curated. He owns 40 to 50 pieces that coordinate well, are classic rather than trendy, and get worn regularly. He spends approximately $2,000 annually on clothing, buying quality items that last. The clothing he buys passes the replacement test. He'd replace anything that disappeared. His wardrobe is a lean, functional system rather than an overstuffed collection. His subscriptions are intentional. He maintains 2 streaming services and 1 fitness membership that he actually uses. No abandoned subscriptions. No guilt about services he pays for but don't use. His monthly recurring costs are $60, not $400. He applies the 3-month rule to major purchases. When he wants something, he waits. Most wants fade within weeks. The few that persist through 90 days typically represent genuine value. He defined enough early. A house that meets his needs, not the fanciest in the neighborhood. A car that's reliable, not impressive. Experiences over possessions. Travel to meaningful places, not luxury resort consumption. Marcus saves 35% of his income and invests consistently. By 65, he has approximately $3.2 million in retirement wealth despite earning less than Rachel throughout his career. The difference is approximately $2.7 million. Not because Marcus earned more, not because he was smarter about investments, because he used different purchase frameworks. Let me give you practical guidance for shifting your own purchase psychology toward wealth-building frameworks. First, become aware of your current purchase framework. When you're considering a purchase, ask yourself, am I thinking, can I afford this? Or is this worth the opportunity cost? Most people default to the first framework. Awareness is the first step to change. Second, implement the cost per use calculation for every non-essential purchase. Actually do the math. You'd be surprised how many purchases fail this test. Third, apply the replacement test to everything you own and consider buying. If you wouldn't replace it, why keep it or buy it? Fourth, implement the 3-month rule immediately. Don't buy anything non-essential without waiting 90 days. This alone will cut your discretionary spending by approximately 70%. Fifth, stop financing things you can't pay cash for. If you need a payment plan, you can't afford it. This eliminates almost all consumer debt immediately. Sixth, audit your recurring expenses. Subscriptions, memberships, services. How many are you actually using? Eliminating unused recurring expenses typically saves $2,000 to $5,000 annually. Seventh, define what enough looks like across major categories. What house is sufficient? What car meets your needs? What wardrobe is adequate? Write these definitions down and refer to them when tempted to upgrade. Eighth, actively notice envy-driven purchases and abstain from them. When you want something because someone else has it, add it to your 3-month waiting list. Most envy purchases don't survive the wait. Ninth, compare purchases to their retirement wealth equivalent. That $200 coat is really $920 in retirement wealth. That $5,000 vacation is really $23,000. That $300 monthly lifestyle commitment is really $138,000. See the true cost. 10th, track your savings rate. What percentage of income are you actually keeping versus spending? For high earners, the number is often shocking. Millionaires typically know their savings rate precisely. Most high earners have no idea. The frameworks I've described aren't restrictive or deprivational. Millionaires using these frameworks live well. They eat good food, they take vacations, They own nice things. They just buy things intentionally based on frameworks rather than impulse based on income. The difference is that they spend on things that genuinely improve their lives and avoid spending on things that seem good in the moment but provide no lasting value. Here's what I find most important to understand about purchase psychology. Your frameworks determine your outcomes more than your income level. Two people earning identical income will end up in wildly different financial positions based on how they think about purchases. The person thinking, "Can I afford this?" uses income as permission. If they earn enough, they buy. This framework keeps income earners poor regardless of how much they make. The person thinking, "Is this worth the opportunity cost?" uses opportunity as constraint. They spend only on things that justify the retirement wealth they cost. This framework keeps people wealthy regardless of income level. These aren't moral judgments. It's not that the high earner is irresponsible and the millionaire is disciplined. It's that they're operating with different mental frameworks that produce different results. You can use the millionaire frameworks regardless of your current income. The person earning $50,000 who uses millionaire purchase psychology will accumulate more wealth than the person earning $200,000 who uses high earner purchase psychology. Your financial future isn't determined by your paycheck. It's determined by how you think about every dollar before you spend it. The frameworks are available to anyone. The only question is whether you'll adopt them. Your next purchase is an opportunity to practice a wealth-building framework instead of an income-based framework. Then your next one. Then your next one. Eventually, the frameworks become habitual. Purchase decisions that took conscious effort become automatic. Your purchase psychology aligns with wealth-building behavior. That's when you stop being someone who earns well but builds no wealth. That's when you become someone who builds wealth regardless of circumstances. The frameworks are the difference. Master them, and your financial outcomes transform.